Baseball is back. After a drought of live sports, America's pastime will be played again. But there are changes coming to the game in 2020, and certainly the season's going to look a little different. So what are the changes? What will baseball look like in 2020? Mike Ventola, who's the voice of the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs, will join us to break down those questions and more. That's all coming up right here, right now. I'm Sam Chen, and this is Face the Issues. Good evening and welcome to Face the Issues. I'm your host, Sam Chen. COVID-19 created a drought of live sports, but finally we are back to playing live sports, and America's pastime, the great game of baseball, is one of those sports coming back. But it's not coming back at every level, and it's going to look a little different. So what can we expect? Mike Ventola is the voice of the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs and also the media relations manager for the team, the Philadelphia Phillies, AAA affiliate. He joins us today. Mike, welcome back to Face the Issues. A little bit different. You're literally about 5 minutes away from us. But in the world of social distancing, we're in two different locations. But it is good to see you. How are you doing? How have things been?
Sam, it's great to see you as well. It's been, it's nice to hear, obviously, with you and your recovery. Glad that you're doing well. And thankfully, I've been doing well on my end. Family's doing great, thankfully. And, for all of us here at the Iron Pigs, we're doing our best, in regards to what's going on in the world these days. So it's just we're taking things a day at a time, but it's just good to at least be back here in the friendly confines of our ballpark and trying to strive forward as best as we can each day.
Oh, I hear that. I'm glad that you are doing well, Mike. It's crazy. You were here just not that long ago, and we were talking about everything that we were all looking forward to with the upcoming baseball season. And then in a flash, it just all seemed to disappear. I want to start with asking you, did you expect, as everything started shutting down, did you expect that we would come to this point and baseball would have a season in 2020?
In light of everything going on, and I'm a glass half full kind of guy, and, for me, for that glass, which is normally half full in my life, start to look a little half empty, I got to be honest with you, in regards to Major League Baseball, I was nervous for a while. I really was, just because of you've seen what's going on in the news. You see what people are experiencing each day. For those who are suffering from the virus, or for those who knew people that had the virus. So many businesses being affected, lives being shaken because of it. And for baseball to be doing what it is now here to this point, is in some ways a little bit of a miracle. But you got to give folks credit for being able to put their resources together and make things happen. In the world of minor league baseball, tried to stay as optimistic as we possibly could here. I know for me, I was trying to stay optimistic, but as the days continued, as once we left March and got into April and realizing things kept getting pushed back, we were prepared. We had our materials prepared as an organization, end of the season announcements, FAQs for our ticket holders, for our sponsorship folks, and, for group leaders. And then also, too, for myself and our president and general manager, Kurt Landis, him and I, we did a virtual Q&A for our fans, just so that they know where they can hear from his perspective and what the team is looking to do here in the present, but as well as fighting forward to the season in 2021. So, we just tried to overall stay as optimistic as we could, but there was that point, Sam, where we knew that baseball was not going to be played here at Coca-Cola Park in 2020.
Wow. Such a disappointment. But to your point, you guys did a fantastic job, I think, communicating that and keeping in touch with the fans during a very, very prolonged offseason, which will last a little bit longer. Mike, let me ask you about the return to play in Major League Baseball here. Obviously, there was a huge dispute between the Players Association and the league, and it went back and forth on how many games were going to be played. They finally came to an agreement. We're looking at 60 games. What's the format for this? There's been some changes as far as usually you have so many divisional games and then so many interleague play and so forth. What's the format? What can viewers expect when they see our major league teams take the field?
I think what teams are going to be able to see is things from a geographical standpoint. So for those who are a little unfamiliar with Major League Baseball, there are 3 divisions in each league. You have the American League and the National League. So what baseball decided to do here within these 60 games, Sam, is to split everybody up geographically. So the American League East will play teams in the National League East. The central of both leagues will play one another, and then the teams out west will play one another. And what that is to do is not only to keep teams from having to travel over the country and try to limit their interaction with potentially catching the virus, but also to allow things to kind of stay within their own lane in regards to the country too, because teams are so close by, especially within the American League East and with the National League East, for the Phillies, who participate in the National League East. I mean, outside of really having to go to Miami to play the Marlins, every other team is, pretty much in driving distance when you kind of think about it, and that and the Atlanta Braves as well too. So I mean, between Atlanta and Miami, but between the Mets and of course the Washington Nationals, those are 2 teams that are right in the heart of their division. So I think baseball did a really good job in keeping teams geographically in order to play one another. So how does the breakdown go? So with those 60 games, 40 games automatically are within teams in your own division. So the Phillies are going to have 40 total games. It could be it's X amount against Miami, Atlanta, New York, and Washington, D.C., for the Nationals. But then they're also going to play 20 games, outside of that division in the American League East. So they're, going to play 4 games against the Yankees, and, they're going to play, potentially, I think, 6 games against the Boston Red Sox. So I'm just using the Phillies as an example just because I know they're the team that's most in our region. So that's what you're going to kind of see once teams get going on July 23rd. It's going to be the New York Yankees and the Washington Nationals at Nationals Park in Washington, D.C., at least to this point. So, and in baseball and I think sports in general have to take things day by day. You're seeing players testing positive. Luckily, it's been asymptomatically or extremely mild symptoms overall, but, baseball has to do what they have to do in order to keep these players protected, promoting face mask wearing and keeping as much social distancing as they possibly can.
Sure. And Mike, to your point, you mentioned that there's going to be interleague play within the division. So the AL East, the NL East, the AL West, the NL West. There are some rule changes to baseball coming as well then. For the big one probably is the designated hitter rule. There will now be a DH in the National League. There's also rules about extra innings with runners starting on second base. 2 questions. First, are these rules changes just because of the shortened season in 2020, or do you expect to see these stay? And then the second question, what jumps out to you the most of these new rules?
Well, to answer your first question, and because it's a short season, I give Major League Baseball and the Players Association a lot of credit in being able to realize, as much as we want to stay true to the historical nature of baseball, because it's 60 games, you have an opportunity to try new things and see what can work in the game, what can't work in the game. So you mentioned the designated hitter. For so many years, the American League was the only league that have the designated hitter. Well, now the National League is going to implement that just so pitchers can truly focus on pitching. And just because of the rosters being expanded for the first 2 weeks from 26 to 30 players, it'll allow teams to carry extra hitters, potentially extra pitchers. And I, in my heart, believe that the designated hitter in the National League will eventually come to stay. I just think because the way pitchers, even though you talk to pitchers in the National League, they enjoy hitting. But I think because the way injuries have seemed to have increased in the game in recent years, you see pitchers battling, Tommy John, whether it be rotator cuff, things of that nature. I think, they're going to want to do what they can to kind of just keep the designated hitter intact. Not that that's finalized. I just believe within the next 2, maybe 3 years, if it even gets that far, we're going to see the DH in the National League moving forward. Now, one I can speak with a lot of experience is the extra innings rule. there will be a runner placed on second base starting in the top of the 10th inning. We've seen that in the minor leagues in the past few years. And I'm first to tell you, Sam, when I first saw it a few years ago, I hated it. It was everything against baseball. I'm sitting going, what are we playing, a video game here? We're going to put a runner on second base. I thought it was kooky. I thought it was crazy. But they did that in the minor leagues just because of a few reasons. One, because sometimes games go so long, 16, 17, 18 innings. I could tell you, I called a stretch of 45 innings total in 3 days. Wow. When I was with the Reading Fighting Phils. I did an 18-inning game followed by a 12-inning game, then by a 16-inning game. And I believe that was back in 2015. So, it was crazy experiencing that. So with that runner on second base, what folks are going to see is the last batter who made the last out in the previous inning will have to be that runner to start on second base. Mm-hmm. And what ends up happening is that run will eventually be charged as an unearned run if that run were to score. And now there would be an error placed as well too, but not on the pitcher or anybody. It'll just essentially be, that person's there because of an error, and can essentially be charged to the team. But when that run does score, it'll be unearned. And now what's going to I think detract the purists is that you could bunt the runner over to third, hit a sacrifice fly, and you can get that runner home without even registering a hit. So, but I ended up getting used to the rule a little bit, especially because it would speed the game up a little bit. Sometimes you're here long days, and it is nice to see. But there are also instances where I've seen a runner scored in the top of the 10th, and then the home team answer in the bottom of the 10th inning. So I do think the rule can sometimes tend to rule in favor of the home team. Mm-hmm. But I've also seen the visiting team pull out, victories just because they get that run in the top of the 10th, and then the home team fails to score. So, those are really the two biggest rule changes folks are going to see this year. And I'm intrigued to see what the reaction is going to be with that runner on second base. I know fans are going to probably hate it to start, but if they see it more, they'll start to realize that it kind of makes sense. I don't think that rule will make its way into baseball for the foreseeable future. Okay. But I think just for this season, we're going to see it as we're going to see in place.
Michael, last question before we go to the break. You mentioned the fans, and it's always a debate, which is Major League Baseball fans love to threaten that they'll never watch baseball again if they keep changing the sport. One of the questions with all the live sports is whether or not fans will be allowed to attend the games. Where is Major League Baseball stand on that right now?
There will not be a single fan allowed into any of the confines of any ballpark in the United States, and that's just because of what's going on with this virus to promote social distancing, and because Major League Baseball is able to move forward with their season because of their television contracts locally with all 30 major league teams and being able to televise games, and there's still a way for baseball to make some revenue in 2020. And for at the end of the day, the players want to play. I mean, right. Let's be honest, players want to play, most of them. Some of them have stepped out because of family reasons, health reasons, and to me, I commend those players, for being proactive to protect their families. I think that's great, but for, also too, for the players that are wanting to play, I think that's been great as well too. So I think even though there was some back and forth very early and lengthy throughout this process for baseball eventually to get these 60 games together, it's going to be huge. But for folks, they're going to have to sit in the comfort of their own chair, their own couch, grab a bucket of popcorn and get to sit back and watch some baseball on their TV. So, and, it's going to get interesting with how broadcasts are done. Home teams will be able to be in the stadium, but for example, when the Phillies go on the road, the TV crew will not travel. They will be calling the games from either in studio or at their home ballparks. So it's going to even be challenging towards broadcasters as well too, who will not be able to travel because of the limiting of people because of everything going on with social distancing and the virus.
That'll be fascinating to watch. Mike, thank you. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Face the Issues. Mike, thank you again for being with us. And I want to shift our conversation now from Major League Baseball to minor league baseball. And you mentioned at the top of the program that minor league baseball is not going to have a season. And that's not just true here in the Lehigh Valley. That's any level AAA all the way down. Let me ask you this about the players. Early on they were asked to stay conditioned, and there was a lot of hope that they would have a season. What happens to those players now that are in minor league baseball?
So pretty much what happens with those players now is that they're going to have to continue to work out as best as they can, staying fresh. For pitchers, being able to continue with their routines, throwing bullpen sessions, just being able to play catch, have long toss. It'll be very important for those for pitchers to really stay in those routines. They're still in contact with many of their coaches that are in the minor league systems, which has been great to see. Hitters, similar thing, just making sure they're active in a cage somewhere if they have facilities accessible to them, being able to hit off a tee, being able to take BP as best as they possibly can, batting practice. Also too working on their defense in whatever capacity. You do have players all throughout the country there are some that are fortunate to either be roommates with a teammate or be able to live nearby someone from another team that you have good friendships that are be able to work out with one another. But it does get tough on the players that don't have facilities or resources nearby. They're going to have to do the best within their own confines to stay fresh and in preparation for next season. So but for minor league players, especially at the upper level, AAA guys, you have bubble players who are going to be able to play in some capacity because Major League Baseball has expanded rosters up to 60 players, and 30 will be active, and essentially around 25 to potentially 30 more will be operating at satellite sites throughout the country. And of course, here in Lehigh Valley, we're very fortunate as the AAA affiliate of the Philadelphia Phillies. The extra players that the Phillies will not carry opening day on their active roster, those extra players will actually be working out through the end of September here at Coca-Cola Park. So they'll be able to still get their routines in, have inter-squad games. So for those players, they're fortunate, but for the rest of the minor league baseball, Sam, it's tough. And, for a lot of guys that aren't going to be able to play, obviously there is some effect in regards to finances and things of that nature. So it's a tough time with having no minor league baseball here this year.
Oh. So you mentioned earlier that Coca-Cola Park is going to be hosting these players that are not on the active roster for the Phillies. Is the idea that if for injury or if someone comes down with COVID, that they have a reserve that they can pull from?
Absolutely. That is going to be the main reason why these players are kept here. And also to keep them fresh. In a lot of ways, these taxi squads, that's what they're being called, taxi squads throughout the country. They're to be ready. It's almost in some way, it's kind of like another trip. It's like AAA in a lot of ways, except that they're going to be, really getting to know their teammates and playing against their teammates because there won't be other games scheduled, even though, like, for example, for us here in the Lehigh Valley, we know that an hour north of us, the New York Yankees are sending their taxi squad to Scranton Wilkes-Barre. And even though we're an hour away, but still we'll never see one another because of COVID-19 and things of that nature. So, for the players that will be here that are fortunate enough to be here, they're going to have to stay fresh and treat it as if that they are having to come out and prove something each and every day, because all it takes is an injury. All it does take is, God forbid, someone getting diagnosed with COVID-19 and that their names would be called. Now, I did forget to mention, I'll mention now, Sam, is that for the first 2 weeks, and I did mention this part, the rosters will be active at 30. Mm-hmm. Now, there will be 3 extra players that won't be active that will travel in case you have someone that's immediately caught with COVID-19, that they could activate someone immediately, get that other player isolated and quarantined. So, but that isn't still to say what I haven't said already, that players that are here in Lehigh Valley still wouldn't be able to report to Philadelphia if a player does get hit with COVID-19. So, it's going to be very important, and Major League Baseball is doing everything it can to keep these guys safe. And these players that are reporting and coming, they've been very proactive in staying safe, and which has been nice to see. If you've seen photos and videos coming from the Phillies, guys have been wearing masks, even when playing, even when, whether it be as a hitter on the mound. It's very important, as players are going to do the best they can to protect themselves and protect their teammates.
Sure. Mike, before the COVID-19 pandemic hit, there was conversation, and eventually Major League Baseball actually they axed a bunch of minor league teams. And the Phillies, their minor league affiliates were not part of that. There is some conversation among fans, at least, that curiosity as to whether how strong minor league baseball would come back in 2021. Do you see more cuts to teams coming, or do you expect that we'll see a robust return to play in the next season?
You know, it's funny, Sam. To be honest with you, I don't know enough. I know there's talks between Major League Baseball and minor league baseball in regards to, them having a retraction in regards to minor league affiliates. I know there will be discussions that will eventually pick back up. There was discussions, as you mentioned, prior to COVID-19 coming. At this point, a lot of it's all speculation. Nobody truly knows. I do know Major League Baseball is focused right now on making sure their season gets off successfully and make sure that it can finish successfully. So I know for a lot of minor league teams in the country, some have been impacted more than others. And I think for those who have been impacted less are continuing to focus on their day-to-day operations, hosting events, doing ways to entertain folks in their respective areas. But for teams who have certainly been impacted more, there are certainly a lot of questions than there are answers. And, so at least for the state of minor league baseball, led by Pat O'Connor, the president of minor league baseball, minor league baseball has been able to rally around one another and being able to support one another. So in regards to next year, though, certainly some questions more than answers. And it's certainly going to be interesting to see what happens when that time comes.
Yeah, real quick before we go to the next break, Mike, last time you were here, we talked a lot about your expectations for the season and fan promotions and the experience that you guys always produce. How much are you looking forward to 2021, and what can fans expect if baseball comes back to Coca-Cola Park in 2021?
I'll tell you right now, Sam, if baseball gets underway successfully in 2021, all I know is that opening day in April here at Coca-Cola Park in 2021, it is going to be a party. It is going to be a full-fledged, let's have at it, let's have a good time. We're going to roll out the red carpet because we're going to celebrate more than just opening day. We already know we are going to plan on recognizing the true heroes, doctors, nurses, folks who themselves have been affected by this horrible disease. And, we're going to do everything in our power to really recognize and support all those who have been in the front lines in regards to COVID-19 and, of course, other things that are happening around as well, too. So outside of that, we're just going to, do everything in our power to truly entertain our fans as we are always capable of doing. And we're looking to up it an extra level, too. So discussions have begun already for 2021. And we're looking forward to really, getting off and getting unscathed there to an unscathed start in 2021. It's going to be a good time. I can promise you that.
We'll look forward to it. Mike, thank you. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Face the Issues. Mike, thank you for taking your time and for discussing America's pastime with us as always. I want to close by asking you, Coca-Cola Park, obviously baseball won't be played there with minor league baseball seasons being canceled, but you guys have been doing a lot to keep the community entertained and active despite and throughout the pandemic. Fireworks shows, I know you're hosting high school softball and baseball tournaments. What's that been like, and what's the driving purpose behind that?
Well, you know what, Sam? I think what was the driving force for us in order to put on these events that we've been able to do throughout the pandemic, we really wanted to show folks throughout the entire Lehigh Valley, even outside the region as well, too, that we care. We want to be an advocate. We want to be here for everybody. We want to be a source of an escape for folks, not truly escaping reality, because we've been able to really focus hard on what's been going on in society, making sure that, social distancing guidelines are put in place, masks wearing. We've been going through all that. So our first couple events we had in the early stages of the pandemic, we had character cruise drive-throughs, which were really cool. We had a bunch of characters, both of times, whether it be Disney characters, superheroes, video game characters. We spaced them out 6 feet apart, and folks were in their cars driving around our parking lots, waving to these characters. You know, even myself, I got into a character. I actually got into 2 character suits, so I played my part as well. So, and you know, because you got to have some fun with it. Look, in minor league baseball, you got to wear many hats. I know, you know, I do media, I do radio. I've had to, you know, certainly branch open into other departments throughout this pandemic. Like you said, we've had fireworks shows, we've had drive-in style fireworks. July 3 and July 4, we had patriotic style type fireworks. We were actually allowed to allow folks into our stadium, 250 people max, just because of the state's guidelines. And we really have a great partnership with Lehigh County. Of course, where Coca-Cola Park is stationed. You know, we've been in contact with the health officials there. They've been awesome. Our partners throughout the Lehigh Valley have been phenomenal, helping us sponsor a lot of these events. And, you know, for us, we've been reaching even further out into the community. We most recently had high school softball here, the Lehigh Valley High School Softball Showcase, which had taken place. They played their semifinal and final games here just recently. And the baseball side will be playing on August 9th and August 10th to be the semifinals and the finals. So, you know, and also, too, we're going to be having other types of fun events. We recently announced the Summer Fun Fest, which will have 8 events in 11 days. We're going to be doing ballpark bingo. We're going to have a party at the ballpark, family camp out, family movie nights, and of course, respecting all social distancing guidelines and making sure that everyone comes out, has fun, but most importantly, stays safe as well, too. So we're just trying to do our best to entertain, because as much as we are about baseball, Sam, we're an entertainment facility as well, too. And we've been able to really showcase that here throughout the Valley.
Yeah, well, we appreciate what you do, Mike. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for all that you do. That is all the time that we have tonight. My thanks to Mike Ventola for joining us. We cannot wait for next season. My name is Sam Chen. On behalf of all of us here at Face the Issues, thank you and good night.